everyone, Nat 1995 here in the video game fanfic plot with a new story for you all. It is called A Spark of Life. And remember, I do not own this story and I give full credit to its author, that is Kiera27 on fanfiction.net, and this a Harry Potter crossover with Transformers. Now on to the story.
A Sirius Matter. Optimus Prime could actually feel the sparks jumping from one relay to the next as he took in the situation. Barricade was one of the wiliest members of the Decepticon army. He was never captured and managed to avoid each and every attempt to offline him, no matter how hard they hit him. Having him on the base was a huge risk. Not only would he have access to all of their defenses, but also have in-depth knowledge of each and every Autobot that managed to make the journey to Earth. On the other hand, he also had a lot of knowledge about the other side and seemed to be rather fond of Harry, which put him firmly out of Megatron's veil of hatred for anything that wasn't a Decepticon. This might work out in their favor if played correctly. Ironhide, stand down. Ironhide looked like someone had kicked his puppy, as the humans would say. He's a Decepticon, maybe just 1 or 2 blasts. No, Ironhide. He has been here for quite some time and has not made any attempt to harm any of the humans, and none of our scanners have shown any outbound communications that we could not identify. Until he proves himself to be harmful, he is to be treated as you would treat any other Autobot, though his weapons will stay disabled until we are sure of his change of spark. Optimus made sure to look each of his Autobots in the optics before looking at the Decepticon that had maintained his silence so far. I trust that this arrangement is agreeable for you, Barricade? Barricade seemed to shuffle on his wheels for a moment before answering. I don't like having to wait for some proof of my change before I am allowed to defend myself, but as long as I am not going to be shot on sight, I shall do my best to behave. It was amusing to see a human as small as Harry smack the hood of the police car. You should probably start with a little less sarcasm. I was thrilled that the Autobots had decided to let Barricade stay, but it meant that all of my alone time with the con was gone. None of the Autobots other than Ratchet and Bumblebee were willing to let any of the humans along with the con, despite the fact that I had been alone with him all the time before they even knew that he was here. Ironhide was probably the most overprotective out of all of them and tended to hover around the entrance of the bay as if he was just waiting for some reason to blow a hole in Barricade. Ips was positively giddy with excitement the entire week, almost bouncing off of the walls the closer that it got to the weekend. I was about ready to ask Will to send him for a mental check when he decided to kidnap me and drag me off to one of the unused buildings at the other end of the base from the barracks. Is there a specific reason that you decided to drag me far enough away from the others that they wouldn't hear me scream? Ips managed to look both excited and guilty at the same time, which certainly doesn't make my question less valid. He closed the door and looked at his watch. The others think that I'm taking you off base for the day to pick up a couple of agents from an ally country, England to be exact. I could feel the butterflies in my stomach as he looked at his watch again. They should be here any minute. The pork is set to drop them off in the middle of this building. I tore my gaze away from Ips and stared straight at where they would appear. I know that there are only a couple of people that would come all the way out to America to be with me without sneaking in and trying to kidnap me back to England. I barely had time to form a smile before Sirius had me swinging through the air with Remus standing a little off to the side with a wide grin on his face. Come on now, Paddy, let me have a chance to greet up. Sirius wrapped his arms around me and shook his head like a dog. Nope, he's all mine and no one else can have him. He's just too cute to let anyone else have. Remus rolled his eyes and walked over with a shrug. Somehow he managed to pry me away from Sirius in a matter of seconds and took the same position that Sirius had been in with me just a moment ago. Now he's all mine. Ips looked like his face was about to split in two from how wide he was grinning as he watched the two of them bicker over who was going to use me as a human-shaped blushie. You both have about 4 hours to bond with Harry before we'll have to go over what you'll need to know to stay close to him. Soundwave was amused and disturbed in equal measures. He had been assigned to information gathering from the beginning of the mission on Earth, and he found humans to be interesting in an abstract kind of way. Their basic psychology was similar to their own, but they seemed caught up in their own individual lives far more than their collective experience. Scanning the communication channels also gave him insight into all of the secrets that the humans managed to hide from each other. The fact that there were humans that were capable of things such as magic was intriguing, especially with the effort they put forth to hide from the humans that did not have such abilities. To have a superior race of beings hide from those inferior was something that did not logically compute. So let me see if I understand all of this. Remus seemed to be on the verge of having a minor panic attack. Sirius was just trying to squeeze the life out of me while only listening with half an ear. Harry was staying with Lily's other sister, whom we have never even heard of when he got caught up in a robotic alien war and is now on a base full of them. On top of all of that, the very fact that he knows that they exist means that the government of the US won't let him leave, at least not without some government shadowing involved. Ips looked a little nervous as Remus' eyes started to glow just the slightest little bit. Well, yes, but it's not really a bad thing to have happened, all things considered. Remus' eyebrow hit his hairline. From what I've been able to gather, the wizarding world is currently living in a constant state of denial about the return of Voldemort. Remus only tensed a little at the name, and Sirius just tightened his hold for a moment, and it probably wouldn't end well if Harry was thrown in the middle of all of the political squabbling and posturing. Plus, I would really like to see Voldemort stand up to the Autobots and try to take them out before Ironhide turns him into a skid mark. Something nagged at the back of my mind for a minute before I remembered one of the basic rules of magic, the reason that the Allspark didn't make it through the operation. Magic doesn't react well with electronics, so wouldn't he be able to take out the Autobots with it? Ips smiled and tilted his hat up. We had a couple of US wizards and witches show up to test the theory out, and it was definitely a surprise. While the magic gave them a bit of an overcharge, it didn't seem to affect them to the extent that we thought that it would. The Autobots' spark seems to generate a force field that throws that magic off. We haven't tried with the Unforgivable obviously, but they know what they look like, and with Ironhide's cannon range I doubt that any of the Death Eaters would be able to get anywhere near close enough to get a shot off in the first place. Optimus is pretty sure that the only reason that the Allspark didn't survive the trip is that it was completely surrounded by magic and couldn't compress down when you went to operate with it. Sirius seemed to perk up and bounce on his heels. You managed to operate, pup? Remus rolled his eyes and pulled me away from the now pouting Sirius. We both know that our pup is extremely gifted and prone to do things that he shouldn't be able to do. Remus looked right at Ups with the same look that Snape normally gives to Neville after he blows up his cauldron, even when it shouldn't be possible with the ingredients we're using. What I would like to know is why it was necessary for our pup to operate with the item that these two sections of aliens were fighting over in the first place instead of one of the many soldiers that were with him. I watched Ups squirm for a couple of minutes before I decided that he had had enough. It was mostly my fault. Both Remus and Sirius raised an eyebrow and then managed to channel Snape again. I knew that the soldiers were going to have their hands full just trying to keep the Decepticons from hurting any of the panicking people, and I was the smallest and fastest person there. I was hoping that I would be able to get away from the action so that the Autobots wouldn't have to worry about the Allspark while they were fighting, but I didn't know that the leader, Megatron, could track the energy of the Allspark, and he cornered me on a rooftop. Operating was the only thing that I could think of to get away from him at that point, and I had already done it once when I was in Mole School and Dudley's gang was chasing me around the school. It wasn't hard to do it again. Remus looked at the ceiling with a strange look on his face while Sirius and Ips just grinned and seemed way too amused.
Well, that's the ending of that chapter. I do hope you enjoy this video. If you like to see more, remember to hit that like button, subscribe to this channel and leave a comment down below. Until next time.